Alright, hi guys. So this is the first time I'm actually doing this, and it's kind of exciting. Anyways, so um, this is, if you're watching this, this is my presentation to explain to you the process that I go through when I design a product. This is both to help you perhaps understand what goes into the products that we use on a day-to-day basis, especially the products that I design. Um, and also, if you are interested, for you to be able to design your very own product. And it might take time, a lot of iterations, but it's an exciting prospect considering that you can do a lot once you can create your product. You have your own very own personalized kind of products that you could use yourself, or you could even sell them if they're good and people want them. You can always sell your products. So, without further ado, I just want to get into this presentation and show to you the different steps that's involved. So here we go. So as I said, this is about how can you design your very own magical products. And the reason I say magical is because in this presentation, I particularly want to touch upon what makes a product genuinely stand out from the rest of these mainstream, mass-produced, generic kind of products. And this is something that I value a lot. I think uniqueness with products is very important. As so many things are getting more and more kind of basic and mainstream, and that you can't even distinguish some of the most expensive wallets and accessories to the more ordinary ones, because there's just not much uniqueness. But anyways, so who am I first of all? So my name is Kerem. This is me over here making something, building something when I was around about 16 years old, and so hello. Just introducing more about who I am. I want to talk a bit more about, how I came to design products, how I learnt, and also how I earned, my experience and so on about product design. So of course, I started since I was actually very young. I did my very own projects, as soon as I was introduced to making things on my own, DT, if you like. I just got my own kind of saw back at home when I was 12, 13, my own hot glue gun, and I just turned my room into a workshop. And it was something that I just enjoyed a lot. I found myself really getting lost in the process of designing something, making something, bringing it into the world, using it, whether that be a toy, the model of a house, the model of some sort of like just something, and it was a huge bonus for me if that something also had a function, like if it worked. For me, that was a very big deal. And but here's, fast forwards, the picture you see here is me when I'm in my 3D in my A levels, and this is when I was in my 3D design class. Here I'm making just an architectural structure actually, but there was a lot of product design involved, obviously, more so because of like the scale, perhaps, at what it is, and incorporating wood is something that I've often found myself doing, and this was a result of that project. There are many other projects as well that included wood that I made during my A levels. Fast forwards, I went to graduating from my from Barning College, doing A levels. I then got into a place studying design engineering at Imperial College London, at the Dyson School of Design Engineering. Here's the building I've been studying in for the last 3 or 4 years. And here, one of my projects that I quite liked that I wanted to share with you, obviously we had so many projects every year, but this is called The Tree. And what the tree does is, as you'll see in this video over here, so this is after you calibrate it, it kind of responds to people's movements. So that the thing in the hand represents a saw. So when you bring it close to the tree bends backwards to avoid the saw. So it's like a tree with a motion really is another word that we use to describe the product. And during my university years, actually it was in my first year that I founded my own company called Swearin. And Swearin, you know, as much as there was lots of really cool products that served a purpose and function, what I think particularly stood out about it was there was a lot of heart in it. There was a lot of soul in it. And the reason I say that is, first of all, things started off by just purely handmade products. These products weren't just handmade, but also the process of discovering the final product that I wanted to iterate, you know, that I wanted to eventually sell, came from a very intensive process. It wasn't just like let's find some pictures and do something similar to what exists. It was constant iteration, which I'm going to go into this process later on, but I ended up creating around 9 or 10 different types of bracelets before I settled on a single type with the clothes, you know, the mechanism, the clasp, the structure, the overall composition of the bracelet. And these were the results, these were the outcomes. So as you see here, what you have going through here is a golden plated aluminium wire with on wood, and which is then connected with a leather strap and a magnetic clasp. I went on to sell these bracelets, by the way, but yeah, that's something I'll carry on talk about in a different point. But so then another thing that I designed under my company, Swearin, was these business card holders. Again, fully wood, some metal bits like copper, brass, things that look really aesthetic. Yeah, and again, so these are business card holders that I designed. And as you can see, I hope, is that they're very unique and they're not the ordinary kind of things that you can just buy from your local store. That's another bracelet. And eventually, after being introduced to our Gizmo module in year 2, this is when after that, you know, after going through a very intensive process of trying to meet the deadline with a project, I kind of started to realize a lot more of what I can actually do, you know, with my interest of making things, creating things. You know, my brother and I, we bought a 3D printer as well, and I could now start modeling with CAD, so computer-aided design, a lot more efficiently and quickly. And I started to go a bit further with my designs. I was like, right, okay, this is great. This is all handmade stuff. But I want to make more complicated things, more interesting things. And this here you can see is the sweater, which I designed and created. And then that's the next sweater. And the main aim of the sweater really is to help people get in touch with both their bodies and their environment, so their surroundings. As I've already mentioned so far, I think a lot of what I try to do with my endeavors is to combine both art and engineering. So engineering for the function and, you know, the durability, the longevity, but the art for the experience, you know, the connection. And I think this is ultimately what Swearin aims to do, and what I aim to do, is to help people connect both with themselves, with others around them, and their environment. So ultimately it's about connection. And now I want to teach you how to do it yourself. So here we're going to go. It's a very basic overview, and I just want to show what can actually be done. So yeah, here we go. So here's a strategy that designers would use. This thing you can find pretty much everywhere. This is called the double diamond process. You start with a problem, you discover, explore, develop, deliver, and then you find a solution. So it firstly branches out, then it focuses. From that focus point, it branches out again, so you explore all options. And then again, you focus it to be able to deliver a simplified solution. But the first thing that you want to ask is, what is your problem? As we saw there. Sorry. As we can see in the double diamond process, the first point of action is to define a problem. What is it that you're actually going to be spending time on to solve? And this is something, it doesn't always have to be this really kind of point of pain. It could just be, I just want more connection. I just want something a bit more pleasant. And I think for Swearing, it's about pleasant interactions. It's about just a bit more connection with one another, with ourselves, and with our environment. And once you've defined, once you define what your initial problem is, you can then do some more research. So primary research, secondary research. Research basically falls under two main categories. You have primary research and you have secondary research. Primary research is a kind of research that you do straight away, face-to-face, you and people. So you talk with people, you do interviews. In fact, it could be immersion. So there's a tool called Immersion in Design where you can immerse yourself in a situation of the people who you're designing for. If that's you, then you're already a pro at it. And then you've got the secondary research, and this is mainly due to this is your desk research. This is the things that you do online, so you research things, read papers, look on Pinterest if it's about aesthetics. And basically what you're trying to do in this process is you're trying to gain insight into the problem. You're trying to figure out exactly what are the pain points people have, and what kind of things are out there that's already being used to solve the problem. And eventually what you get to, after you've discovered, and then you've explored and defined, you gain, and once you've found insight into the problem, then you can start to explore and to define. You want to scope down on the focus. And here you can define your problems more. The aim is to define your problem more, and you ask how might we questions. So how might we blah blah blah, how might we create more connections, if that's your main problem that you found for your research phase. How might we get someone more in touch with their bodies? How might we make everyday moments more meaningful for the person? Eventually what you come down to is a defined problem. And once you've got your defined problem, a much more defined kind of problem that you're trying to solve, then you go into the next phase, which is a develop and test stage. And here we create things called looks like and works like prototypes. A looks like prototype is something that merely has to reflect how the appearance of your product will be. And a works like prototype, you focus on just the functionality. So you don't care about how it looks, you just create something that would reflect its functionality. And here, if it's something electronic and wild and crazy, it could be, you could use Arduino, you could use battery systems and so on. But if it's just something simple, like a mechanism, then you can just reflect that with pieces of paper or cardboard. And basically with prototypes, your aim is to gain more insight into the products, like a much more defined insight. Initially with Discover, you were trying to gain insight into your problem. Now you're trying to gain insight to your potential solution. So you're trying to understand how you can develop your product. So right now we're at this stage, so develop and test. And next, what you want to do is deliver/listen. So here, what you want to be doing is you want to create a prototype. Once you've created your prototype, and you want to be giving it to people and literally just listening to them. Do not put words into their mouth, and please try to, we have something called confirmation bias in design, where you're trying to get feedback that you want to hear from the end user, And you really want to be able to refrain from doing that. That's really important, to just have a completely open ear and don't put words into people's mouths. Don't try not to refrain from trying to give them options when they're giving feedback, like, do you find this good or bad, or do you find this, what kind of, words would you use to describe, and leave it there. Just, for instance. So that's a question that you could ask, so that you gain a very unbiased feedback from your end user. And why do we do this? Again, to further develop your product, right? So then you come to a solution. As we can see in the double diamond process, once you've delivered, listened, develop it further, you iterate the prototype again and again, and finally you have a solution that you can present to your end user. Right. Now, we're going to do a case study. This here, you can see, is called the Swallet. It's one of my most beautiful products that I've designed, in my opinion, for myself, amongst my other products as well. And it's just something that I take a lot of pride in, this one particular product. And now I'm going to share the process with you. So as you can see, it's a card holder. This is I call it the Swallet, and what happened, as you saw in the video, is as soon as you open the cover, the cards inside pop out automatically. So there's no other extra things you need to do. They're protected when the cover's closed. When you open the cover, they just come out automatically with one action. So as you can see, again, looking at the double diamond process, I'm going to walk you through what I did on each stage to create this end product. First of all, what was my problem? Okay, so on the practical side, I need something that could simply contain my cards that I can easily access when I wanted to. And but on top of this, obviously, I wanted it to be something that's aesthetic, really cool, something that would create a good impression. If I'm, say, trying to attract a new client or something like that, then I wanted something that I could be proud about using. So then the next stage is discover, right? So what is exactly out there? And what I came across was this very, very cool product. This is a card holder, and I figured out what kind of mechanism it uses, which is this kind of ladder system. As you can see at the bottom, this mechanism here, there's this kind of ladder thing that allowed every card to pop out at different levels. And I really found this quite fascinating. It's a very simple mechanism that meant, each card raises to a different level. And I thought this was really cool. So I wanted to incorporate this into my products. But all of these products that have this mechanism, in my opinion, look a bit flimsy. They're nothing special. I mean, they're just a bit of metal that's been stamped or, put together somehow. And I mean, some of them are cool, don't get me wrong, but I thought that I could do better, something that would be a lot nicer to use and a bit more luxurious. So I decided to choose wood because of the appealing physiological and psychological effects of wood. So wood is known to have very positive effects on both mental health and your physical health, as you might know as well. And so again, this is then the explore and define stage of the double diamond process. And what I decided to do here, I looked into some wooden products. So here you can see some examples. Because so basically what I'm doing now is I'm trying to define a little bit more on exactly what I want to design and develop. What's the thing that I want to take further? And so here's some more examples that I found. Obviously there's a bit more research, but this is just examples. And eventually what I have here is my defined problem. So what I've got here is a functional, simple, impressive, natural, durable, and sustainable wallet card holder is what I wanted by the end of my research and development phase. Cool. So where are we at now? We've got a defined problem, right? Problem definition. And the next stage now will be develop and test. So the potential solutions. And so for this, I do have like the different things. I can put them into the slide, like the different stages that I created the wallet through. You can find it on my website. But here, what I'm going to be discussing is what you can do when it comes to your development stage. You can do sketches. This is something that I highly encourage when you're just free, that you're not caring about how it works, how the software works and so on, and how to use the software. Sketches are pretty simple ways to just get your ideas onto paper, And if you've got an iPad, brilliant, because there's some really powerful tools on, especially iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. I use Procreate every day, almost very frequently. And if you don't have iPad, then just a pen and paper would do for your initial kind of ideation process, where you're just trying to put ideas out there and you're trying to have something to bite on and work around. The next stage would be CAD. Once you've got some ideas, some like the rough ideas in your head, try to build them in a 3D design platform like CAD. So here, the examples that I've got here is Shaper 3D and Fusion 360. Because of their kind of artistic side to them, I find them a lot more satisfying to use compared to the purely engineering-based kind of software like SolidWorks, which I can use as well, but especially for the kind of purposes that I want to create things, these are the platforms that I usually design things on. And then prototyping is the next stage. I use a Dremel, a handheld Dremel, very often if I'm going to prototype it myself. If I'm not going to prototype it myself but outsource the prototype, I will create a CAD file and create technical drawings, which I then send to a manufacturer, and boom, they create it for you. You tell them the surface finish and you tell them everything that needs done with it, what kind of materials are going to be used with them, and they basically make it for you and then they send it. And to be able to do that, so like I said, you need like a technical drawing. Do not worry, I know this looks complicated, but a lot of the work is done directly by the software itself. So if you're making it on, say, Fusion 360, there's a button you press, say, create like a technical drawing, and you just choose which kind of dimensions to show. And the aim with that is simply to create, to just show every like possible dimension that you can, including the radiuses, the lengths of critical dimensions, and you send that through, and they know then exactly what to create. So yeah, manufacturers is obviously like one of the things that took quite long for me to find. I had no idea where on earth to find manufacturers, and quite frankly, I never could find any manufacturers. They eventually found me through LinkedIn. Because I put up a lot of my designs up there, and people are like, "Oh, okay, cool." So, they thought that I would be a good customer for them. But a lot of my contacts are very keen on helping people bring their projects to life and so on. So, if you do want their details from me, I can share them with you. But what I would like is then for you to, just let me know if that's what you'd like. So yeah, and then once you've got the final products, the initial prototype, then you give it to people for feedback and to improve. So one thing that I found, for instance, with the Swallet, this Swallet over here, is that the magnet just wasn't strong enough. So there's a magnet inside that connects the top cover and the bottom base, so the wooden base. So when you shut the top cover, it's meant to stay shut. And with my Swallet, this actually works quite well, because it's the friction between the base, so the wooden base, and the metal cover is also quite high to keep it shut. But some of the Swallets where that friction isn't high enough, either because of the manufacturing slight variations with the wood, and there's more reliance on the magnet to keep it shut, it just wasn't strong enough, is what we found. So through this was the only main feedback that I received from my users. And then through this feedback, then what I know next to do is to simply include a larger magnet, or to place it in a different position so that when it shuts, the magnets are more effective to keep it shut, and the cards don't fall out when it's in their bag. And that's then the last step, really. And this, through iterating this process, you can then perfect your products. So you iterate it again and again and again, and eventually you have a product that everybody wants, everybody pays for, and so on. So that is basically it. Thank you guys so much for listening to this amazing, to this presentation. I really appreciate the time that you've given for this, and if you'd like more, please let me know. There will always be more things for you to learn about as well. So yeah, thank you.